Hello, everyone. So, welcome back to APU Industry and Career Life webinar session now. Okay, now the host has changed. My name is Long here from Asia Pacific University. And today, this is our third session. And for those who have missed out our previous session, feel free to go and watch the replay at our Facebook page and also YouTube channel. So, while we actually waiting for more to come, so I would like to actually invite you to come to join our APU Open Day. Our e-counselors are actually ready to guide you through, especially for those actually have completed your exam and getting your result. Like SPM result actually have just released past 8 days before that. All right. So today, upcoming APU, actually, our Industrial Career Life webinar will be covering in the field of fintech, entrepreneurial, cybersecurity, business with technology, multimedia, actuarial, game design, and development. So those actually interested, do log into our website to get more information or actually follow our Facebook page as well. All right. So the entire world is changing now. You like it or not, many things are evolving. Okay. And we also need to make sure ourselves are transformed so they're able to adapt into the changes. Today, we are actually very proud to have Mr. Gurpratip Singh, our COO of APU, with us here to tell you more on future-proofing your career in IR 4.0. Hello, hi,
Hello.
Mr. Padip.
Hi, Long. How are you?
All right, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Long. And I think welcome to this series of seminars that we have been conducting over the last couple of days. I hope that you have been enjoying yourself, meeting our academic staff and other staff who have been sharing a lot of information with you. Hopefully, it enables you to move closer towards making decisions for your career. What I'm going to try to do today is to cover aspects that relate to the future, especially how technology is developing and how technology is changing. Not only, I know we are all concerned and obsessed and worried about the pandemic and when we're going to come out of it and exit plan or not exit plan and open parliament or not open parliament and things like that. I want to keep all that aside because when we talk about the future, the topic here is future proofing your career in Industry 4.0. And we've got to talk about a future beyond this, a future that was already something that people were thinking of even before this pandemic, and how we've got to prepare ourselves, how you guys who are getting into further education or further studies have to think about preparing yourself to address this new future. So that's why this concept of future proofing is something that's come up very, very critically over the last couple of years. Employers are talking about it, educationists are talking about it, governments are talking about it, about graduates having to make sure that they are future proofing their career. And the reason why it's very important is and we'll talk about why that's important as I go through the slides. So let's go along, right? Let's move along with the session here. First of all, I think if you want to talk about future proofing, we also got to ask ourselves, what does future actually mean? What do we mean by this thing? What is this thing called a future? And for that, I think maybe one word that best describes the future, perhaps you can think about it as well in your mind, but one word that really best describes the future is this word, disruption. And I know that when you look at this word, we fear it. We feel that it's something that's really scary and our future is uncertain and all that. And disruption, although it has a negative connotation, throughout this presentation, we'll be looking at disruption from a positive perspective, and how this disruption is changing careers, is how it's changing the way we live, the way we work, the way we play, and how you will play a role in your future, no matter what area of study you choose to join, how you can actually ride this wave of disruption and future-proof your career. So just a little bit about disruption, because I think we need to set some context here. Now, the word disruption, we need to contrast it against the word innovation. And I think we are quite familiar with innovation. It's being spoken about, especially in this country. For the last 30 years, the country has been talking about, we have to innovate, we have to innovate, we have to innovate. And to a large extent, we have done a lot of innovation in this country to transform the country from what it used to be, which is purely an agricultural and manufacturing industry economy, into a knowledge-based economy. So our world has revolved around innovating. So innovation is basically if you want to come up with a very simple definition, very easy to understand, is basically doing the same things, but doing it a bit better. So you are doing basically the same, trying to achieve the same outcomes, but achieving it much better, much faster, much easier, more conveniently from any location, and using a multitude of devices, but essentially achieving the same outcome. Yeah. Now, what is disruption then? Now, when we take disruption, we're telling ourselves, hey, look, let's not do the same things anymore, right? Maybe the outcomes that we were looking at achieving shouldn't be achieved anymore. Yeah, maybe we should be thinking about things that make the old things obsolete. And that is what disruption actually means. It means throwing away the old way of doing things and making things that are new, all right? Or creating new situations, creating new opportunities for us to use technology to do new things, so that new opportunities get created for your business and things like that. I mean, I just give you some simple examples. If you look at it, not many of you might remember this, but I think your parents will remember this. Perhaps about 15, 20 years ago, if you wanted to call a taxi, you had something called radio cab in KL, yeah? So, or in Malaysia, you could actually call this 24-hour hotline. The phone numbers are given there, and you will call somebody, and there'll be a dispatch person who says, oh, okay, right, a taxi will be with you in half an hour, 45 minutes, and you may or may not get your taxi, all right? But this is how we used to, those days, we used to innovate. Yeah, so it's an innovation, because previously, if you wanted to find a taxi, you literally had to go to the road and hail a taxi down. But an innovation came about where you were able to call a hotline and they could actually arrange a taxi for you. But going forward, people then started asking ourselves, why do we need taxis? Why do we need this dedicated people just doing nothing but driving taxis? Why don't we liberalize the transportation industry and allow anybody to become a taxi driver? Anybody, yeah, with a car. And that's where the idea of Grab came about, and Uber and all the other e-hailing services. So this is disruption, right? So innovation is doing the same thing, taking a taxi, but doing it much more easier, more conveniently. But things like Grab and e-hailing is basically disrupting the whole taxi industry, yeah, and saying that, hey, look, we don't need taxis, we have Grab, yeah. That's one example. The second example is hotel booking. So in the past, if you wanted to book a hotel, you go online and you go to Hilton's website and you book a hotel, a room from Hilton, find directly from the hotel, yeah. But and then along the way, we had aggregated portals such as Expedia and Booking.com and TripAdvisor and Trivago and Agoda, and these guys actually provide you with access to all the hotels that you need, and you just put in your criteria and your location, and he will tell you, okay, this hotel this price, this hotel this price, this hotel this price. That's innovation. Basically, it's still innovation. Yeah, it's still taking the same concept, but now you're getting the option of being able to choose from a multitude of hotels. So it's innovation. Yeah. Then somebody sat down and said, hey, look, why do we even need hotels? Why do we even need this dedicated things called hotels? Anybody can become a hotel. Anybody who has a room to rent can rent it out as though it was a hotel. This concepts were unthinkable previously. So again, disrupted the hotel industry, and that's where B&B came about. Yeah. Of course, another area of disruption is very, very clearly the cinema. The only source of watching movies 30, 40 years ago was going to a cinema. Yeah, you actually had to buy a ticket, stand in line, get into a cinema and watch a movie. And then there came innovations such as renting videos and buying DVDs and VCDs and things like that, all right? Provided you with the ability to watch those movies at home, but still, well, not as good enough, right? In terms of an experience and in terms of access of movies and in terms of quality and all that. That's innovation. Never, but at the end of the day, nothing could replace the experience of going to a cinema and watching a movie. Then people said, look, we don't need to go to the cinema anymore. We've got streaming now, online streaming. So that's where Netflix, HBO Go, and now Disney Hotstar has come to Malaysia as well, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV, and so many other streaming services are now available for you to, in the comfort of your own home, watch whichever movie you want, whichever time you want, and basically in your comfort of your own home. So that has actually brought about a disruption in the cinema industry. Yeah. So these are examples of disruptions. Yeah. And how certain industries that we have been so familiar with have become disrupted because of technology. Yeah. So even in your lives, your own lives as you are now, staying at home mostly, I hope, your lives revolve around a lot of disrupted elements. Like I said, Netflix and Amazon Prime and all that to watch movies. You use social media to communicate. Yeah, so you have Snapchat, you have Instagram, you have Facebook, so many other tools that you will use to share information and to share pictures with your friends and so on and so forth. You go to Google, you go to YouTube, you go to Bing and so on and so forth to get information. You use all sorts of devices to play games. You use all sorts of devices to handle everything A to Z. You can sit at home and basically survive. Now, this scenario didn't exist 25 years ago. And the only reason we were able to survive at home during this pandemic is because we had this environment. So this is what I call a disrupted existence. And like I said, this disrupted existence has enabled us to at least survive the pandemic, all right, staying at home. Because like I said, 25 years ago, if this happened, I don't think many of us would have survived. Yeah, being able to access all these services. Disruption also happens in finance. So today people are thinking about, hey, look, if you wanted to go and borrow money those days, you have to go to a bank, and you got to convince a bank to lend you money. But today you don't really need to, because there are funding options available provided by fintech, financial technologies. Yeah, bringing the world of finance and technology together to offer you financial services from your home. So you're talking about even for lending money, for wealth management, for equity financing, cryptocurrencies, of course, blockchain and all the cryptocurrencies that come along with it, payments, advisory services. So there are robo advisors that help you to make investment decisions, and so on and so forth. So you can actually get all the financial services that you need and more without going to an actual bank and having to face somebody. That's disruption in fintech. And this sort of disruption is really, there's an explosion of disruption in this area, in all of these areas. Yeah. So just to give you a snapshot of the fintech ecosystem as it currently stands, and there's a lot more. These are some of the more popular ones that exist at the moment, and more will come on as people think of new ways to disrupt finance through technology. Yeah. So what we have seen so far is that disruption, or most disruption, if not all disruption, is driven and enabled by technology. Yeah. So that's why we normally tie disruption very closely with technology, and the term then becomes digital disruption. So the future, which is already now almost there, and we are in this era, the future is about digital disruption. All right. And digital disruption has got a great bearing on the way you will work, on the sort of jobs that you will do, and the sort of work that you will do during your jobs, and the sort of expectations that employers will have from you in your jobs. And that's why we say that digital disruption is something that you really got to get a grip of, to try to understand and try to know how to address or access your studies as you embark on your further education beyond your school. Yeah. So I mean, the evidence is very clear when you look at companies worldwide. Yeah, which are the most valuable companies today? If you look on the right hand side of the screen, now on the left hand side you'll see the traditional companies. 100 years ago, it used to be the steel companies, oil and gas, telephony and telegraph companies, and really big industries. Yeah, because that was when industries were coming to the fore. 50 years ago, you noticed it started to shift, and IBM became the most valuable company. Now, IBM was the one of the pioneers in large-scale enterprise computers, mainframe computers. Of course, you still had the AT&Ts, and you had Kodak, you had General Motors, but still generally large enterprise, huge manufacturing organizations that were dominating economy those days. Today, who are we talking about at the top? Highest value: Apple, Alphabet, by the way, owns Google, Microsoft, Amazon. Amazon, of course, I think has now, it's 3 years ago, I guess, Amazon has now at least overtaken everybody else, Facebook, and so on and so forth. So these are the most valuable companies in the world, because we are now operating in a digitally disrupted world, and they are providing you with the tools, with the access to services, and with the access to information that are right at the center of this disrupted world. Yeah. So let's try to explore this a little bit further. Now, then at the same time, while you talk about digital disruption, you have this thing called Industry 4.0, or also known as the fourth industrial revolution. All right, the original term is fourth industrial revolution, but to simplify things, we call it Industry 4.0. Yeah, so that's something that was developed, or these ideas came about. This is the person who actually came up with this idea of the fourth industrial revolution. Yeah, he's a German scientist, and this is about 6 or 7 years ago when he said that we are now in entering the fourth industrial revolution, and it will affect the very essence of our human experience. Yeah, Klaus Schwab is one of the founders of the World Economic Forum, which is a very, very prominent think tank that actually comes up with an annual report on what the future of work is going to be. I'm going to share a lot of information from the World Economic Forum later, but this idea is revolutionary, because what basically he said is that we've gone through 3 revolutions, from the time of the steam engines to the time of mass production to the time of computers. We've gone through 3 revolutions. Now we are in the 4th revolution, and it is called the 4th industrial revolution, where it's no longer just about computers, it's no longer just about production equipment, it's about what is known as cyber-physical systems. And I'll explain cyber-physical systems in a short while, but basically it's about the Internet of Things, it's about networks, and it's about a whole new way of doing things, which is contributing, or which is driving all the disruption that I spoke to you about earlier. Yeah. So to take this further, I mentioned cyber-physical systems. Quite simply, again, there are 2 worlds operating at the moment. You've got the physical space where we operate, where we walk around, where we sleep, where we walk. This is our world, the physical space. And then you've got the cyberspace, the cyber world, where all your web applications operate, where all your web cloud services operate, where all your data is stored, cyberspace. And previously, it used to be quite 2 very disparate systems, 2 separate environments or ecosystems. But because of Industrial Revolution 4.0, the 2 worlds are now converging, so that it's very hard to differentiate which is physical and which is cyberspace. We've got data at our fingertips. We've got literally data on our wrists with our smartwatches. We've got data on our smartphones, continuously exchanging data with systems on the cloud, and continuously analyzing and continuously making decisions for us. So it's becoming closer and closer. You cannot separate the cyberspace and the physical space. That is the key element of the fourth industrial revolution. Yeah, and this is what's driving all this digital disruption. So these are some of the technologies that you would have heard about that are driving this. Autonomous robotics, yeah, simulation, system integration, Internet of Things, cybersecurity, cloud computing, AR, VR, big data, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So, and if that's not bad enough, now scientists are talking about us entering the 5th industrial revolution. Very quickly, we are entering the 5th industrial revolution. All right. So you notice the first 2 or 3 revolutions took a long time. Yeah, it took 200 or 300 years to reach the 3rd revolution. The 3rd revolution was about 50 years. Now in the 4th industrial revolution, we are talking about 7 to 10 years only. So we are almost at the tail end, and we are entering the 5th industrial revolution, where everything will revolve around AI, or artificial intelligence. So AI will play a big role, or is already playing a big role in it's already playing a big role in the 4th industrial revolution. Is going to play an even bigger role in the future, in the 5th industrial revolution. This is Internet of Things. Basically, the Internet of Things is basically all sorts of devices interconnected to each other, exchanging data with each other, making decisions wherever they are. And today we are talking about 50.1 billion devices already connected all over the world. I think that number has now increased tremendously. Yeah. So every device that we take today, it could be a smartphone, it could be a watch, obviously your laptops, but then you also got appliances, your fridges, your washing machines, your lights in the house, your alarm systems, all interconnected and exchanging data with each other, so that we can make our life more effective. Yeah. Big data today, people don't talk anymore about gigabytes and terabytes. Those are the data sizes that people are no longer extraordinary. We talk about petabyte, zettabyte, prontobyte, yottabyte, and it will be a point at which we start talking about geobyte as well, which is 10 to the power of 30 zeros. So you have to get ready for this type of vocabulary in the future, yeah, in terms of scale, the scale of data that's being generated. Disruption has also caused things like this. 10 years ago, if you wanted to take a video from the sky, video clip from the sky, you literally have to get onto a helicopter, hire somebody who's willing to sit on that helicopter with a huge camera and take a video shot. Today, you don't have to do that. You just send the drone. Sitting in the comfort or standing in the comfort of the ground, you can control this drone. It has a very nice camera, very high quality camera, and it can fly all over the place, doing exactly the same that this was doing 11 years ago or 10 years ago, but doing it much easier. That's another form of disruption as well. All right. So this drone represents a combination of Internet of Things, big data, AI. It's all in there. It's all in there. Yeah. It's all working together to create this sort of environment for you. All right. So watch this space, as these drones are going to sort of become very predominant in the future. AI, the many areas, fields or subfields within AI. Don't want to go into detail, but this is what's going to become a key part of your future as well. Yeah. Robotics, I mentioned earlier. So devices getting more intelligent, cleaning robots, autonomous vehicles, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Caregiver robots. So robotics is also going to be part of it, and robotics uses AI, right, to drive the robots. All right. Now, at the same time, there's also opportunities for you. The future is going to be also driven by very high-speed networks. So you're used to 4G. I think today we all have 4G networks, but you've heard about 5G, and Malaysia is investing tremendously in transforming its networks to 5G. It's going to take performance on networks to a much higher level. No latency time, no delays, more capacity, and you can actually imagine as though you're standing next to someone when you're communicating over 5G network, right? So that's coming, and that's going to really exponentially explode the amount of data that's going onto the networks as well. But that brings along with it other issues. One of the biggest issues is cybersecurity. So when you're putting so much data on the web, when everything is interconnected, there's always the fear of hackers. There's always the fear of security, of data breaches. So there's this whole field of cybersecurity that you also can think about getting into, where you actually learn how to protect systems from such breaches, yeah? Because this is a major cost. Security breaches cost 600 billion a year globally. I think you've been reading for the last few days, there have been hacking of the oil pipes in the US, and they're suspecting certain countries of being involved in that. And that's causing economic loss, yeah? And this is only going to increase further as more and more devices and more systems get interconnected, and a lot more data being exchanged across the world. It's inevitable, but like I said, cybersecurity is one of the areas that has come out of this need. It's a major need and a major shortage area as well. Yeah, these are some of the most disruptive technologies that people are talking about for the future. Some are already here, the ones in purple, but some of them are in development. There's one item here called 4D printing. I think you're all familiar with 3D printing. It's quite common now. You can actually download and print objects on a 3D printer, even in your home. But what's 4D printing? Right? 3D printing, we know you print an object. But what is 4D? What's that fourth dimension? That fourth dimension is movement. So in the future, you can actually print something or create a device which can actually is integrated with movement as well. I'll give you an example. If you can see the next slide. This is what comes out from a 4D printer. It is something that's got no battery, it's got nothing in there, but it actually can move. So there's movement built within that object that you produce from a 4D printer, right? And again, you can imagine the potential of such an object if you put all these objects together in terms of its potential uses in the future. Yeah, all right. So that's 4D printing. However, I think for you trying to look at careers and trying to look at studies, what is of real interest for you is jobs. At the end of the day, when you look at studying at higher education at the university level, you always have to think about, hey, look, what am I going to do in my work? How is my work going to change when I graduate? Yeah, and that's where we need to start looking at what the industries all over the world are talking about. For example, there's a study that was published by Business Insider recently, and they talked about 12 jobs that robots are taking over the fastest, right? Etchers or engravers, crop farmers or laborers, property and casualty insurance claims examiners, travel agents, and so on and so forth. Now, you notice that these are the types of jobs which can easily be done by a computer system, by a machine, by a robot, by a piece of software that has got intelligence built within, because a lot of the decisions can be simulated, or a lot of the decisions can be programmed into the computer system, and the computer systems can learn from new situations that arise. Yeah, so these are the jobs that scientists say maybe in the 5-10 years from now you'll find robots or intelligent systems taking over. Yeah, and when we talk about future jobs, a big source of information is the World Economic Forum, and in their latest report, the 2020 report that was just released in December 2020. Now, this next few slides are the results of surveys being carried out with employers all over the world, companies. Yeah, and this latest report is particularly meaningful because it was done during the pandemic. It was done towards the end of last year when companies were still figuring out what they need to do after the pandemic. Yeah, and if you look at it at the top there, employers were asked, companies were asked, hey, look, beyond this pandemic, what do you plan to do? How do you plan to get back on your feet? How do you plan to come out stronger? And the top two areas that the company said, you notice that at the top there, one is to accelerate the digitalization of work process. That means they are going to invest a lot more in digitalizing. They're going to use technology to digitally disrupt their businesses, all right? And also provide more opportunities to work remotely, because they realize that working from home works in many cases. So they're going to create an environment where people are going to be able to work from home or work remotely without having to come to a central location all the time, and many other things. But the key message here is that employers are going to accelerate the use of technology to support work, right? Not decelerate, right? So so all this was already happening before the pandemic, but the pandemic has accelerated all of this, has made the need for this to happen even much stronger. So this entire disruptive situation that we've been talking about earlier it has only been intensified because of the pandemic. Yeah. So there are some when companies were asked what are you going to adopt within the next 5 years, and they've all said all this: cloud computing, big data analytics, Internet of Things, and all these are technologies that we were talking about earlier as part of the Industrial Revolution 4.0. All right. What are the jobs that are increasing and decreasing in demand? Again, World Economic Forum in the Future of Jobs survey. And it's very clear the new jobs of the future are those that involve analysis, so data analysts and scientists, AI and machine learning specialists, big data specialists, digital marketing and strategy specialists, process automation, business development, digital transformation, and so on and so forth. All right. And when we talk about decreasing demand, data entry clerks, administrative and executive secretaries, accounting, bookkeeping and payroll clerks, accountants and auditors, and so on and so forth. So the big stark difference between the jobs on the left and on the right, the big difference is that the ones on the right are basically very traditional, predictable, and routine jobs, whereas the ones on the left are jobs that require greater creativity, innovation, and human interaction, and also deep analytical skills. These are the jobs of the future. Now, they're not necessarily all about technology, right? It's all about people. It's all about critical thinking skills. It's about creativity. It's about innovation. So even though you take a course or you study to go into a profession, and it's not technology, you're not studying to become a technology specialist. You might be studying to become a financial specialist, but you still will be involved in jobs that require all this. All right. So you could be a data analyst and scientist within a financial environment. So your knowledge in finance, your knowledge in accounting will be used together with technology, all right, to enable you to perform that role. Yeah. So that's an example. Yeah. So the good news is there are more new jobs being created and fewer jobs disappearing. So what we're trying to say is that the prediction is that in the next 5 years, there'll be 79 million new jobs and 85 million old jobs disappearing. So net, that's still an increase, right? Good news for you, yeah, because you'll be coming out in a time when then all of these jobs are going to appear, yeah. However, I think, we're all in Malaysia, so most of us, or we plan to study in Malaysia. So our interest will be what's happening in Malaysia. And surprise, surprise, it's no different, yeah. In Malaysia, and this is based on a survey or research that was carried out by MDEC. MDEC is the Malaysian Development, Multimedia Development, Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation. The reason why I got stuck is because they've changed their names a couple of times. So it's the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation, and they are here to push or to drive the transformation of the Malaysian economy to adopt more digitalization. Yeah. So what's happening in Malaysia? And again, based on their survey, this is surveying among Malaysian companies. 85% of companies in Malaysia are going to face digital talent issues, right? And 43% of them are saying, look, to overcome this, we've got to hire from overseas, which is quite a shame because we've got such talent in the country, you guys, yeah? So there's a lot of opportunity for Malaysians to actually take up the jobs that are going to appear. And even during the pandemic, you notice the graph at the bottom, jobs have been increasing, yeah? So today, in fact, in March, as of March 2021, there are 52,000 over vacancies or jobs created in technology or related to technology. Yeah, so this is one area which has grown during the pandemic, where the need has become even more and more critical. Yeah, so compared to other areas, because you do hear about retrenchments and issues in some other industries, but in the technology industry, this is the one industry or one of the very few industries apart from healthcare and logistics where jobs have actually increased and increased tremendously. Yeah, from where it was last year, January, 39,000 to 52,000 this year, and it will continue to increase. Yeah. So that's Malaysia, yeah. And which are the industries that are hiring? All industries. Traditionally, banks or financial services, insurance companies, IT services, computer software, and internet companies, they have been the traditional companies that hire digital talents or so-called people who've got technology skills. But today, going forward, all sorts of companies, market research companies, music companies, cosmetics companies, tobacco companies, renewable information services, online media, biotech, all sorts of sectors see a need or critical need to grow their digital talent base over the next few years. All right. And that's a very important point for you to take back. Yeah. Because the need for digital skills is going to increase in all sectors. Yeah. All sectors of economy. So what are the jobs? Fastest growing job titles you'll see in Malaysia: digital marketing executives, where traditionally you'll have marketing executives. Now you're talking about digital marketing executives, software test engineers, data scientists, social media manager, digital marketing specialists, digital marketing managers, full stack engineers, and so on and so forth. YouTubers, right? So this growth of influencers who make a lot of money creating videos on YouTube, advertising products, advertising services, but not advertising directly, but doing it in a very creative and innovative manner, right? So that's also growing tremendously, yeah. And also, I think this is just a couple of days ago from the 18th of June, yeah. And you can see that Malaysia is also talking about coming out of this pandemic. There's a plan called Resetting Malaysia, so realigning it to the new economic landscape. And you can see the yellow boxes down here, and what they've said is, in order for Malaysia to reset and to come out better after this pandemic, we've got to embrace the digital economy, we've got to promote more technology adoption and advancement, all right? And then we've got to prepare the future workforce. So the country is saying that, our country is saying that we have to do this, because if we don't do this, as we come out of the pandemic, other countries would have moved forward, right? Other countries are also taking these steps, and they're moving forward, and we don't want as a country to be left behind. Yeah, so it's extremely important for us to be aware of the direction that the country is taking as well. Yeah. So at the end of the day, what do these translate into numbers? Yeah. So these are some numbers that matter to us. The contribution of the digital economy to Malaysia's economy is very high today. 17% of the economy is contributed by digital. It's going to grow. It's going to be 21%, 22% by the end of this year. Annual growth rate of the economy, digital economy, is 12.4%. Annual growth rate of tech professional salaries is 30.7%. Average salary of tech professionals is 9,000 plus ringgit. Annual growth in demand for tech professionals is 20.1%. All right. But annual growth in supply is only 3.7%. Now, what that tells you is that there's a big, huge increase in demand for technology professionals, but the supply coming out from universities and coming out from education institutions is only 3.7%. So there's a big gap, right? There's almost a 17% gap, right? Shortage. So it's people like you who need to get onto the bandwagon and to join this talent base that's going to come out, that drives the digital economy. Yeah. Okay, I spoke a little bit about salary. This is just a snapshot to show you the salaries. Okay, we don't go into detail here. Yeah. So now the question is, who's going to do all these things? Right. Of course, it's you. Every organization has got a computing setup, has got a digital setup, and these are the sort of jobs that exist in organizations, and these jobs will continue to grow. Yeah. Apart from the other job titles that I've shared with you earlier, these jobs are continuing to grow. People are continuing to hire in these roles. Yeah. In typical organizations, all organizations need technology. Yeah. But then again, don't be so hung up about job titles, because in this field, compared to other fields, job titles change all the time. New job titles get created all the time. Old job titles disappear all the time. Yeah. And these are some of the new emerging titles. I've shared some of them with you earlier, and these are those that we see coming out that our graduates get into. When we meet our graduates and we ask them what you're working for, they tell us, oh, these are the titles, right? And don't be worried. Titles appear, disappear, and appear all the time. Yeah. So it's not no longer about just a fixed job title. In your career, you will change your job titles multiple times, because that's how the technology changes all the time. Yeah. These are, for example, in 2029, you can see some new titles that people say might exist: cyber attack agent, voice UX designer, flying car developer, haptic interface programmer. These are emerging titles. All right. Joy adjutant, juvenile crime rehabilitation counselor, cybercrime, chief purpose planner, and so on and so forth. So the future is so dynamic, right, that you can't even think about what new job titles are going to exist. Yeah. um, so how do you get there? How do you survive in that world? How do you survive in that future which is so heavily disrupted, and something that where you need to continuously learn new things? Yeah. Of course, education, you have to take a traditional pathway. There are traditional pathways for that. So we talk about after your SPM, you if you want to eventually get into a degree, you either take the pre-university route, STPM, pre-university foundation, or you do your diploma and then get into a degree or get into employment. But obviously, after your degree, you get into employment and get into postgraduate studies. So the traditional pathways are there, right, in the technology industry. And which degrees? A whole range of degrees are available for you, right? So if you go and search, these are some of the degrees that we offer at APU, and you will see some very, very interesting titles in there, all related to what I spoke to you about earlier. But even our degrees in accounting and finance, business, marketing, and so on and so forth, all of this also use technology. They're very strongly integrated with technology, and that's extremely important, because you don't want to become a run-of-the-mill accountant, a run-of-the-mill marketing person, a run-of-the-mill business executive. You need to become a transformed or a professional who is able to actually work in a disruptive future, right, in whichever field that you've chosen to study. Yeah. But that's not enough as well. I think if you scan what employers are saying, and I think this is an article from a staff from a few years ago, it's still relevant. And when people talk to employers and they ask them what's wrong with graduates, why is it that there's unemployment? Why can't we hire graduates that come out from a lot of universities? And they all say the same thing. They say English competency, lack of proficiency in English, right? Mind you, they don't talk about other languages, they talk about English. Yeah. They also talk about critical thinking skills. So graduates lack the ability to think critically, can't communicate, can't engage in communication, don't have confidence, and more importantly, they must display a global mindset. Now, these are Malaysian employers talking about Malaysian graduates. Yeah, so think about that, all right, as you embark on your studies. And this is another survey. This is done by Jobstreet in 2018. And again, employers were asked, why is it that you might not be able to hire some graduates? And all of them, across the board, employers say the same thing. They said, number one is poor attitude and character, poor command in English, poor communication skills. That's why I'm saying, although we've been talking about technology and digital disruption and all of these things, at the end of the day, those are just skills that you develop, all right? Those are things that you continuously develop. But underlying that, right, you just need to have these attributes. Employers find these attributes to be becoming more and more important. Yeah, you need to have a strong character, you need to be able to communicate strongly, and you need to be able to speak English well. And all employers say that, all right? So don't sort of ignore this. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you look at what you need to have in order to succeed in this future, in this really challenging future, exciting and challenging future, First of all, you've got to be a self-learner, all right? Continuously learn. Learning is going to be lifelong because things change all the time. You've got to be a leader in this industry. So continuously lead people, all right? Very creative, very ethical, very professional, analytical. We've said that earlier. Very people-oriented because although, like I said, we talk about technology, most of the time you've got to spend your time dealing with people. And finally, information-oriented, all right? Now, the center there, the yellow bit, is perhaps the most important thing for your future, all right? Adaptability is going to be the number one differentiator in enabling you to future-proof yourself, right? Now, why is adaptability so important? And this is a survey that was done, I think, yes, it was done by PwC. And it's very clear. I mean, a survey done among employers, and 47% of jobs will disappear in the next 20 years. All right. 96% of jobs in the accountancy area will disappear due to automation. 39% of jobs in the legal sector will be automated by digital technologies. Right. Now, I'm not trying to panic you. All right. What this means is that the way accountants work today will change dramatically in the next 10 years. All right. So traditional accountancy jobs will disappear, and you have to create this new breed of accountants who are so much in line with technology, and they know how to use disruptive technologies to enhance the services that they provide or the work that they do. Similarly, in the legal sector, all right, a lot of the work is going to be automated. A lot of the mundane tasks, searching for cases, and developing information of searching for information will be automated. All right, so then lawyers can spend a lot more of their time thinking and getting rid of all the mundane work. Right, so it doesn't mean that there'll be no future for accountants and lawyers. Not true at all. It's just that the way accountants and lawyers work will change dramatically. All right, that's just examples. Yeah. So what would help to future-proof yourself? At the end of the day, what do you do? All right. First of all, you got to make sure that the course that you join, whichever course that you choose to do, prepares you to future-proof yourself in the way that I've spoken to you about earlier. All right, that it exposes you to the technologies that will enable you to integrate that within your core subject area. Yeah. Secondly, the environment is also very important within which you study. Of course, now we're talking about the pandemic, so we're studying from home, but eventually we'll get to a physical learning environment, and that physical learning environment must enable you to transform into this digitally future-proof professional. Yeah. Also, the people that you study with and the people that you study from, very important. Right. Look at the people who are going to impart knowledge to you, the lecturers. Do they come from industry? Do they have the necessary digital background? All right, to enable you to be future-proof. The people that you study with, the students, do they come from one, stereotypical environment, or are they diverse? Diversity helps a lot. All right, because the world of the future is borderless, and you've got to learn to work with people from a diverse range of backgrounds and cultures. So the people and the type of people that you work with or you study with will shape your future as well as a student. Yeah. And finally, you have to realize that a university education is a transformative experience. It should transform you. It's not just about sitting for attending some subjects and sitting for exams and passing and getting your grades at the end of the day. It should transform you. You should be a dramatically different person as you exit than compared to what you were when you entered. You must be very, very different in terms of your thinking, in terms of your approach to work, in terms of your ability to communicate, in terms of your confidence, the way you carry yourself. It should be a transformative experience. All right. So these are some important pointers in ensuring that you can future-proof yourself in this hugely disruptive world. So at the end of the day, are you really prepared for disruption? Yes, you are. All right. You've made it this far. You've made it to this level of studies, and you're now making a decision. You are prepared. Now just take the next step, and let's move on into future-proofing your career. Thank you very much. I hope that you've been able to gain a little bit of knowledge from this presentation. There's a lot more that I could share, and I could go on and on, but I think I try to keep it as light as possible in terms of knowledge. But I hope that you get the key messages, yeah, about being able to future-proof yourself in your future careers. Thank you very much. Lung, you might be muted, I think.
Oh, all right. Hi, thank you, Mr. Padip. All right, thank you for sharing.
Sure.
So I actually come across a lot of students actually have been asking. In APU, we actually often offering many different kind of specialism program. All right. In terms of IT itself, we already have 18 different types of IT program. So how students actually make their own decision on which are the program that actually suitable for them? Do you have any suggestion to them?
Oh, okay, I know it's a very tough decision because the world is constantly changing, and you might take a specialization today, and then 2 years later you'll say, "Oh, why didn't I take this, or why didn't I take that? Because the other one looks more exciting." My advice to you is just follow your interest as it is today. If today you're really keen to go into AI, for example, go into an AI degree and make sure you do your best possible work in that area. The most important thing is that you must adapt, that you must be prepared to know that by the time you graduate, you might actually be working or might be working in an environment where that specialization may not be used heavily, but you might have to go into a different specialization area. You must be prepared to pick up new skills. The most important thing is that an IT degree should prepare you with a fundamental set of skills that enable you to move into whichever specialized area of work. Yeah, so whatever it is, your fundamentals must be strong. That's why in the first year of the IT degree or computer science degree, there's a lot of subjects in there, right, that try to prepare you, give you a foundation. You have to do software development and programming. You have to learn about networking. You got to learn about databases. You got to learn about security. You got to learn about computer architecture. And sometimes you'll be asking yourself, look, I'm here to do a specialization in cybersecurity. I'm not interested in software development. But the point I'm trying to make is that you have to be able to accept that you have to learn a broad range of skills, especially in the first year, so that this will prepare you to then move into any specialized area once you start working. But at the moment, your choice should be guided by what interests you, what excites you, right? Just go based on what you're excited now. Don't just go based on where your friends are going, right? Based on your own interest, right? And just go into it and do the best possible work that you can do in that degree. Yeah.
All right. Well. So student actually, you no worry on the limitation of the specialism you choose. Doesn't mean that you choose this specialism you can't do on some other career path as well.
No.
Yeah,
I've got
correct.
a lot of our graduates have graduated in specializations where they are not working in now at the moment, right? Because, like I said, new opportunities arise, and their interest might change, or they might want to branch out, and they found the transition very seamless because at the end of the day, the degree gives you a very strong foundation, right, to operate in whichever specialization.
All right. Okay, we have a question over here from Yijun. Okay, how soon will AI able to assist in the medical industry, particularly the surgeon and doctors, to overcome critical health situation like cancer, health attack, diabetes, and our recent pandemic?
Yeah. Well, there have been already studies. There have been already experimental approaches of using AI. Obviously, it's life and death, so you can't really go full blown into it without proper testing and without proper trials and things like that. But yes, I would think that in the next 5 years or so, some very minor procedures will be done by robots, guided, of course, by human being or human doctors. But I think within the next 5 years, you'll see a lot more of that happening. As well as AI, not just in terms of the operations and the physical aspects, but also in terms of you being able to go online and being able to interact with an AI-driven doctor, all right, who is able to at least diagnose simple ailments. Yeah, of course, there has to be a medical professional behind the scenes to ensure that the diagnosis is accurate and to ensure that your health is not endangered. But I think within the 5 years, you'll see it to be quite common. On the simpler sense. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next question from Lee. All right. Which certain area of specialism do you strongly recommend to study for in-demand job after 5 years?
That's a $64,000 question. All right. As I said, the world is constantly changing. All right. What was in demand 5 years ago is very different from what is in demand today, and what will be in demand 5 years from now. And that shouldn't guide your thinking. Your thinking should be guided by your interest. All right. So don't worry about 5 years later what specialization or what course is going to be in demand. I would say that any degree will be in demand. All right. What is important is that within that degree, you're able to integrate a strong knowledge of how technology can support you in the work in that degree, whether it's business, marketing, finance, accounting, psychology for that matter, design. If you have a strong understanding of that subject area, and then you integrate it with technological understanding, you won't go wrong. Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, so don't be guided by, oh, what will be in demand 5 years from now, what is in demand now, all right? Because that changes a lot. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So the next one from Jason. Will a basic computer science degree be more adaptable than a cybersecurity degree?
No, I don't think so. Basic, of course, a computer science degree has got a broader range of subjects, and you cover a lot of bases, all right, and you generally become quite an accomplished developer. But that doesn't mean that the cybersecurity degree doesn't provide that. At the end of the day, there's a body of knowledge that you still have to learn, regardless of your degree. Yeah, you still have to learn a certain set of knowledge. Yeah, and you cannot run away from that. So it's just that people who are very interested in cybersecurity might want to go into cybersecurity because it allows you to delve deeper into that area. That's all. Yeah, but it's not going to be inferior, or you're not going to be shortchanged in any way. Yeah, you can still, after your computer science degree, become a cybersecurity professional. You can still do that, as long as you have the ability to adapt and ability to learn and ability to pick up new skills, and that is what a degree should give you. Yeah, that ability.
Okay, all right. There's also a lot of students might be asking that if when I want to study IT, and the entry requirement always actually looking at mathematics, am I have to be very strong in calculation?
No, well, you see, there's normally a relationship between IT and computer science and mathematics. And the simple reason for that is mathematics is a representation of your ability to solve problems. Because computing and IT is all about solving problems in a methodical manner, in a very step-by-step manner. And mathematics provides you with that. So yes, sometimes people will say it's very closely linked. It's useful to have strong ability in maths, but it's not essential. All right. So as long as you have a basic knowledge and basic interest in mathematics without being exceedingly proficient in it, it's fine. Yeah. You're not going to use a lot of that mathematics when you graduate. What you will use is the ability to solve problems. That is what you have to develop, and you use your mathematical sort of skills to actually sharpen your problem solving skills, and that's more important. Yeah. But yes, it's true, you just need to have a little bit of interest and a little bit of ability to do mathematics to start off with. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'll come to the last question from Chris.
Yeah.
All right, will it be very competitive in finding job for us after we have graduated from just degree? Nowadays, a lot of people actually starting to get into IT career.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, that's been a question that's been asked of me for the last 30 years that I've been involved in this institution. And every year I will say, yes, it is going to be very competitive. It is always going to be competitive, and it's going to be even more competitive in the future. What you have to do is to ask yourself how you're going to get ahead of competition. All right. And that's why in my last slide earlier, I showed you a few things, what you should be doing. All right. You should be looking at the type of course that you're doing, the environment that you study in. All this is going to help you to go ahead, yeah, or to be ahead of the competition. Yeah, so it's always competitive. Your life will be always competitive. Yeah, you'll be competing for jobs, you'll be competing for careers, and always you need to understand what you need to do to be ahead. So don't just focus on barely passing a subject or barely achieving something. Always focus to do even better than that, and you'll have no problems. As we see that with most of our students, we've had 100% employability rate for the last few years, as measured by the ministry. And over the years, it's been nothing less than 95, 96%. So there's a reason for that. And that's because our students know what they need to do to be ahead of the competition. So not an issue, right? The competition will be there, but the opportunities will be there for people who are able to present their competitiveness, to show that they're competitive. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Our time is almost over now. So
Okay.
maybe Mr. Padi, we actually can give some suggestions, especially for those SPM level actually that just got their result. Do you have any suggestion for them or recommendation for them?
Well, I think my recommendation is again, follow your passion, see what you're interested in, all right, and make sure that whatever you do, whatever you decide to do, you understand that the way you work is going to dramatically change when you graduate. So whatever you learn in your courses, whatever people might tell you about careers and working environments will change. Expect it to change, all right, and you must be able to accept change. And be able to learn new things all the time. Yeah, so that's a skill that you have to develop during your studies, and at the same time have an open mind and don't be closed culturally, right? Make sure that you try to get along with people from as many cultures as possible, because the world is borderless. It'll become even more borderless in the future. You'll be constantly working with people from other countries, and if you don't develop that ability, that cultural awareness, that intercultural awareness, then you might have difficulties in the future. Yeah, so those two things are important. Apart from that, just follow your passion. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. So I see that a lot of people's commenting in, actually asking question. No worry, you can always come to look for us. Join our e-open day. Our counselor is available for you through Zoom, Teams, or live chat to answer your questions. All
Yeah.
right. So this session we're going to yes.
Yeah, look, there's one more thing I just wanted to highlight. I mean, what
Hello. Hi, Mr. Paddy.
opportunity to become an entrepreneur as well. Now, if you are interested in that, tonight at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m., we have a very exciting session with our entrepreneur in residence. We have someone who works in the university, who works with students to try to develop their entrepreneurial ability, take their knowledge, their technological knowledge, and create businesses out of it. All right. Very interesting session at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. through the same link. And you'll be able to learn how you can actually take your journey apart from getting into careers, working for somebody, actually creating businesses for yourself out of the knowledge that you gain. So you might want to join that as well. And like I said, it's 8 p.m. tonight, 8 to 9. Don't worry, it won't go beyond 9 o'clock, and you can still catch the football matches tonight.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we're going to have a series of interesting topics, exciting topics. So you just have to stay tuned with our Facebook page and also our APU website. You're able to find all the updates. All right, and you don't, those actually interested in accounting, you don't be scared by what Mr. Padil actually have presented just now. Later on at 3:30, we're going to have a topic to talk about fintech and future of financial services. Right. So for those interested in accounting, banking, and financial field, you can actually join our session later on. So don't miss out this. All right. Stay tuned and follow us. All right. Once again, feel free to go and join our APU e-open day. We are here to actually waiting for you. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Paddy.
thank you. All the best. All the best to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.